The X Zone Radio Show is heard on radio broadcast affiliates worldwide, including
AM 580 CFRA in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada.
WPUL AM 1590 in Daytona Beach, Florida.
KOHI AM 1610 in St. Helens, Oregon.
KHRO AM 1150 in El Paso, Texas. And for more information on becoming a professional broadcast affiliate of the X Zone Radio Show, visit
www.xzbn.net
or call toll-free worldwide
1-800-610-7035.
The X Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Hold me close and tell me how you feel. Tell me love is real. Words of love you whisper soft and true. Darling, I love you.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-800-610-7035, worldwide toll-free. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is Dr. Karen Sherman, and we're going to be talking about relationships. Yes, there is more to life than all the weird stuff that we hear on the news today. Relationships are at the very basis of each and every one of our lives. And Dr. Sherman is a licensed psychologist in New York, has been in private practice for over 20 years. Her focus is relationship, marriages, and helping people achieve their greatest potential. Karen is the author of Mindfulness and the Art of Choice, Transform Your Life, which enables people to let go of conditioned responses and empower them to make their own choices. The co-author of Marriage Magic, Find It, Keep It, and Make It Last, and a contributor to 100 Great Ways to Improve Your Life Volume 2, writing a chapter about overcoming stress and the power of persistence. She's a featured writer on Yahoo Personals, a relationship blogger for thirdage.com, and writes the disputes column for hitchedmag.com. Karen also conducts workshops, teleseminars, and speaking engagements. And Karen Sherman, welcome to the X Zone.
Well, thank you so much, Rob, for having me on.
Tell me, why don't people pay more attention to the relationships? You know, I watch this every day of my life where people pay more attention to their, their internet accounts, their emails, things that without a relationship and the basis of a foundation that is secure in your own life mean absolutely nothing.
Well, that's a great question. I think that what happens is that in the beginning, when we are looking for somebody, we spend a lot of attention. We make sure that that person is the person we focus on. We sort of shut off everything else in our lives. And then once we get sort of certain of that person, we get into the committed relationship, we let the rest of the world come back in, and we are just so busy We are all stressed. I don't care where in the country you are. It might be a little bit of stress. It might be more stress. But we are under a huge amount of stress, and we get lost in it. And we forget about our relationships, and that's very, very dangerous.
You know, my best friend, the person that means the world to me, is the lady I have been with for so many years. Together,
how nice.
together we have 6 children. We
Wow.
have 8 grandchildren, or number 8's on the way. We're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
We hold hands when we walk. We're not afraid to show our affection for each other. And when I see people just wasting their love and relationships away, it just boggles my mind.
Mm-hmm. Does it make you crazy when you sit at a restaurant and you look over and you see the two people not only not talking to each other, but they're each on their BlackBerry?
Let's talk about that when we come back from this commercial break. Dr. Karen Sherman is my special guest, Exo Nation. 2 websites, choicerelationships.com and drkarensherman.com. That's drkarensherman.com. We'll be back on the other side, so put your Blackberries down, shut them off. My name's Rob McConnell, and this is The X Zone.
How you feel?
Love will keep us together. Think of me, babe, whenever some sweet talking girl comes along, singing a song. Don't mess around, you just gotta be strong. Just stop, 'cause I really love you. Stop, I've been thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together.
Exo Nation, Dr. Karen Sherman is my special guest. Here's a couple of websites, www.choicerelationships.com and drkarensherman.com. Before we went to the commercial break, texting, cell phones. Oh, they're tools, people. They're tools. You don't have to take them to bed with you. You don't have to take them on walks. You don't make love to them. They're tools, for God's sake. We've got a table. When you walk into our house, Karen, we have a table on the right hand side. That's where you leave your cell phones. That's where
I
you
love
leave
it.
your
I
iPods.
love it.
That's where you leave your electronic games. You come into the house to see us, not to use these cursed communication systems that fry the brains of people.
That's wonderful. You know, I think that the only place they have in relationships is that because we're all so busy, if you want to use them once in a while to send a text to your beloved and to say, I'm thinking about you, or you want to call during the middle of the day and say, I can't wait to get home to you tonight, then it's a good thing.
Yes.
But unfortunately, you know, as we were saying before the break, so many people get so tied up in the technology, and hours go by, and you've totally forgotten about, you know, your main person. And that's just such a dangerous thing, because if you put your relationship on hold too often, there's no relationship to come back to.
How much pressure does stress in today's society add to the decline of relationships as we're seeing them?
Oh, I don't know if I could put a percentage on it. I think that, you know, stress is we know harmful to your own personal health, physically, psychologically. It certainly is a factor that, you know, affects a couple. You know, it takes away from your enjoyment of daily living. You mentioned you've got your 8th grandchild on the way. I've got 2. I know for me they are the joy of my life. You have to make a decision about what your priorities are. And you don't have to have grandchildren to make that priority.
That's true.
You can go out and, you know, you said you take a walk with your wife and you hold hands.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Research has shown that when you hold hands, that is chemically good for your body, that's a way to reconnect. And that doesn't cost any money.
No.
You know, just walk around the block and hold hands and just be with each other. So whether you choose, and it's a choice, to allow yourself to get caught up in the stress, or to take certain measures to stop and enjoy life and one another is totally up to you.
Once again, we have to take time to stop and smell the roses. And by the way,
Yes.
I buy my wife a dozen roses every 2 weeks.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow. There's going to be people asking for carbon copies of you.
It's just common sense, Karen. I'm not doing anything that's out of the ordinary.
No, you're not. And the truth of the matter is, Rob, that people say, oh, I want that honeymoon phase back again. And they can have it. All you have to do is do what you did in the beginning. Make time for each other, appreciate each other, compliment one another. Just do the very things you did in the beginning. That's what made it special, because you let one another know that the other person mattered to you.
What once again, my mind just is boggled by how we humans love to complicate something that is so basic and so simple.
Mm-hmm.
We have to complicate it. And then you've got the people who, unless there are little games being played behind the scenes, they're not happy. There always has to be that little game, because God forbid anything goes smoothly. And if there is no stress, well, there's got to be something wrong. So we must create stress. We must create a situation that puts something that is going very smoothly into a bit of danger. And why do people do this?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think that as human beings, we're vulnerable. We're emotionally frail. And I think a lot of us may be afraid that we're going to get hurt, or we don't trust that things are going to work out. And so it's easier sometimes. And I truly don't believe that people do it purposely, but I do think you're right. I do think that many times people will create drama or create stress to sort of, either protect themselves, to replay situations that they've known from their childhood, and then that way they're comfortable, to test one another. And again, as I said, I don't think people are doing it purposely, but it's a way of either doing what they know how to do from their childhood or protecting themselves emotionally. Much easier to, to sort of like put a little situation in front of somebody you're close to and see if they pass the test, if they still love you, than to put out on the table that you're feeling insecure and ask, are you there for me? Can I know that when I'm hurting, you will really be there by my side?
But what message are we sending to the youth of today when, let's just use that couple in the restaurant that you and I were talking about before. They're sitting there, instead of enjoying each other, they're texting messages to who knows who.
Well, I mean, personally, I don't think it very good. Let me tell you, this is a true story that I read in one of my professional journals, that a psychologist was working with an adolescent who was basically saying nothing in the session. And then all of a sudden, I don't really quite get why the psychologist had her BlackBerry on, but she did. All of a sudden, she gets a message, and she sees that it's from the adolescent client that is sitting in front of her. And it says, "You don't get me." And so what the psychologist realized was she had to text the adolescent in order for them to be communicating. And that scares me, because we're developing, I believe, an entire generation of people who can't really communicate with one another. They hide behind their emails and their text messages and all sorts of other paraphernalia, where they really are afraid to communicate one-on-one.
And without communication, what kind of life is there going to be for these youth? And you know what? One of my daughters, she's showing me all this texting, and it's LOL, OMG. What's wrong? What happened to spelling? What happened to communicating? Why text your grandmother when you can pick up the phone and speak to her?
Yeah. And poor grandma, she doesn't understand what LOL is. For a long time, I thought it was love you lots.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I had to find it took me a long time to understand what that was. And I also, among other things, I also teach at the university level. don't ask what the papers look like coming in.
That bad?
Because nobody knows how to speak English anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is scary.
Yeah. There's a place for technology, and it's wonderful. They say that through the internet, the world's gotten smaller. We can know what's happening around the world instantaneously. But there, in my opinion, and I know this makes me sound so old, I remember the days when I went into the grocery store and the man stood behind the counter with a pencil and he added up what you bought on a brown paper bag,
That's
right. and said hello and asked how my parents and my grandparents were.
All right, how about this one? Going into a library and using an index card to find the book you're looking for.
And having to learn the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh,
Listen,
now,
Rob, we're starting to sound very old here.
In my opinion, Karen, and this is just my opinion, the internet is the largest septic tank man has ever made because there's more crap in it than there is anything useful.
Well, I guess, that there's good stuff that comes out of it and there's bad stuff. And I guess that's part of progress. There's certain advantages to it and there are certain disadvantages to it. And hopefully, we have the ability to guide our children in a way that they will benefit from it, although there's a lot of stuff that's out there now that's very, very scary. Let's go back to your statement a while ago about why don't we get back down to basics. Yeah. So much of what a lot of us in my fields are trying to do now is to teach couples the basic skills of having a relationship. Because people really just don't know how to have a relationship. They turn to the media and they get very false expectations. And unfortunately, and again now I'm going to talk about the present-day generation, it's a very disposable generation.
It is.
So, you have disposable diapers and everything gets thrown out easily. Yep. And to some extent, the generation today, I give them credit. They're not afraid to move and shift and change. But on the other hand, when it comes to relationships, they do the same thing.
Disposable.
Well, if it's not working out, let's get divorced.
I had a lady on the first hour of tonight's show. Her name is Lindsay Morgan, and she wrote a book about living past a mastectomy. And she says that she's afraid to go out and try and date again because society is looking for that perfect woman that they see on TV and in marketing ads. That tore my heart.
Yeah.
That broke my heart.
Yeah.
I said, whatever happened to judging, people not judging a book by its cover? Here you've got this wonderful lady who wrote a book to help people. She's got 4 children, 10 grandchildren. A most delightful lady. And she does not want to face the rejection because she's had a mastectomy. Is that what this world is coming to?
Yeah. Yeah.
You and I have to take a break. Please stand by. Dr. Karen Sherman is our special guest this hour, Exo Nation. A couple of websites, www.choicerelationships.com. That's www.choicerelationships.com. And www.drkarensherman.com. Good Doctor and I will be back on the other side of this news break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Exo Nation, when you go to a restaurant with your family, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or whoever, be respectful. Don't text. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
'Cause I really love you. Stop. I'm thinking of you. Look in my heart and let love keep us together.
You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network. X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio,
Euro High Definition Radio,
and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035.
Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com.
And our website,
www.xzoneradiotv.com.
Love was glass that broke apart. Give me faith.
The look of love is in your eyes. A look your smile can't disguise. The look of love, it's saying so much more than just words could ever say. And what my heart has heard, well, it takes my breath away. I can hardly wait to hold you, feel my arms around you. How long I have waited just to love you, now that I've found you.
Exonation, Dr. Karen Sherman is my special guest this hour. ChoiceRelationships.com and www.drkarensherman.com. Doctor, Karen, you call your book Art of Choice. Now, why do you refer to it as an art instead of a science?
Well, that book, let me first say that book talks a lot to the concept that a lot of people are not living in choice. In other words, they're just really reacting based on patterns from their past, and they don't realize it. You know, I started to speak a little bit about that before. So I decided to talk about it as an art because when I think of science, I think of it as being very precise and specific. And in the book, I attempt to help people with their process of learning how to break from these patterns that they've learned in childhood, patterns that helped them when they were kids, but which are no longer serving them. But since I can't really tell everybody exactly what is going to be right for them, I felt that to honor each person's process, it was more appropriate to call it an art. And, you know, when we talk, Rob, about relationships, it's really important to be aware of these old patterns, because without even knowing it, a lot of times we're reacting to our partners based on things from our past, and those things are getting in the way of us having a really good relationship. So it's really important to start being aware of the things that are coming up in relationship to your partner, because that's where it's going to show the most when you're in this very emotional, important relationship. Now, I just said a whole bunch of stuff. I'm sorry, but it was important for me to let the audience know that.
So are we talking about the baggage or luggage that a person may bring from one relationship to the next?
Oh, bingo. You're so smart. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's not from, you know, you're right. We're talking about the baggage that you will bring from one person to the next, but it's really the baggage that you learned when you were a kid.
So everything goes back to mom and the way that mom and dad acted?
Good part. Good part. You know, what happens is whatever's going on in your home is normal. You don't know any better. And so you learn as a kid to please your parents because, you know, they're going to give you the love. And then whatever works, you just keep doing. And as I said, you know, you learn those patterns. They get wired into your brain. And then what happens in adult life is if the person that you're with does something, doesn't do something, says something, doesn't say something that is reminiscent of something from your past, you get a triggered reaction, and you don't even know that it's really a triggered reaction. You think it's because of what just happened.
See, you called it wiring. I call it programming.
Okay. I can go with that. I'm very flexible.
So this goes back to what you and I were talking about before, that, what kind of example we'll be setting for our kids. Here you've got mom and dad at home working. Mom and dad may be working 2 jobs. Mom may be working out of the house. They get home. They wolf down their supper independently, and little Johnny or little Sally have probably had a burger or something from the closest fast food place. They get home. They get right onto their laptops, their iPods. They start texting messages all over the place. So this becomes the norm for the little one?
It is. And, that's a great example, because not only is it an example of, how people are not relating to each other, but there's something else that's going on. Little Johnny is feeling neglected. And that's part of what's going to get wired in. And so later in life, when Johnny gets married, and his wife comes home, and she's had a busy day, and she says, oh, just a minute, I need to still check out something, and I'll be right back because something from work has to be checked out. He's going to have a bad reaction to her, just like when Mommy came home or Daddy came home and ran onto the computer.
I know a family that instead of the mother calling the people to the supper table, she texts them within the same house. I better watch my blood pressure.
So go home and walk around the block holding your wife's hand, and that will help.
I'll do that once I finish here. So how do people, first of all, recognize that this problem that they have that is reoccurring from one relationship to the next, needs to be addressed, that it's a problem from their youth? And how do they fix it?
Well, just by what you just said. If you see something happening over and over and over again, from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, it can't always be that it's, it was what Johnny said, it's what Billy did, it's what Harry didn't do. What's the theme in all of them? You.
That's right.
So then maybe it's time to look at you, which is very, very hard to do. Self-reflection is very difficult to do. But that's where it's got to start. You cannot make a change unless you're aware. So that's where you have to start.
So why are people hesitant in making changes? Is it because they feel as if they have failed, or that they can't be wrong? Why don't people want to change? Or is it just as simple as that they don't know that they're doing something wrong?
Well, I think, number one, it's as simple that they don't know they're doing something wrong, and then it gets even more simple than that. It's uncomfortable.
Ooh.
You've been doing something for many, many, many years. The devil is better than the one you may have to face, or whatever that expression is.
Right.
If I say to you, no, Rob, come on, I'm going to give you something. It's going to be really great. It's going to be really great. But you don't know how to do it. You don't know what it's going to feel like. You don't know, what the outcome is going to be. I know this one. I know how this feels. Yeah, I'm a little, I don't love the results, but at least I know how this one turns out. People are not comfortable making change.
What's the difference between mindfulness and being aware then?
Well, in the way I think of it is you can be aware of something, and okay, I'm aware. But to me, being mindful means, okay, now you got to be proactive. You got to do something about it. So for me, a lot of it starts with your body, because anytime there's something psychologically going on with you, there's something emotionally going on with you, there's always going to be a physical sensation. People don't know that. A lot of times we're cut off at our necks. We so much thinking that we're not even aware of our bodies. But people can learn to be aware of their bodies. So once you know, you can say, oh, I feel a tightness in my stomach. I feel a tension in my stomach. Okay, that's awareness. But now being mindful means, okay, what shall I do about that tension in my stomach? Let me see what that's about. Why am I feeling that? What's that tension telling me?
What inspired you to write Art of Choice?
Personal experience. I hit a really, really bad spot in my life. had to make a choice whether I wanted to continue feeling the pain or not. Decided that I was going to get through it. Worked with a very gifted therapist. She taught me some really good tools, and then I started using them with my clients and found that they were very helpful with them as well. Different than traditional talk therapy. Traditional talk therapy, you gain insight into your problems. But what was happening for a lot of people prior to learning these tools was they would know what their problems were about, but they were still reacting. Because if you don't deal with the energy of the leftover hurt, then you're still going to react. So once I saw how useful it was, I just felt, I got to let other people know that they can really break from their past, that they don't have to be prisoners to their past anymore, and that they really can live a life of joy, a life of their choosing. When you're really emotional, you're not thinking, you're reacting. And when you're reacting, you can't really consider all the possibilities. You're not making choices. You're just, as I said, you're just responding quickly like a knee-jerk reaction. So I felt, okay, let me get this out there, and maybe hopefully people will be able to learn these tools and then also have the possibilities open to them.
You talk about free association writing as well, and I was wondering if you could share with us what free association writing is and how this works for you.
Glad to. Thank you. Again, in the attempt to get past one's thinking and get more to the emotions, one writes as fast as they can without picking up their pen, meaning you don't stop and you think. So if something's really bothering you, you just start writing as fast as you can. If you stop having something to write so that you don't pick up your pen, you write, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, until you continue to write. This serves two purposes. Number one, it gets the energy out of your body. And if it's outside your body, then it's no longer in your body. You've released, you've emotionally regurgitated, you've vomited, so to speak. The other thing is that in this writing, you might get a greater insight as to what's bothering you emotionally, which you might not have gotten to if we're just talking. Because when we're talking, you're giving me your thoughts. So that's what free association writing is.
But I thought communicating with someone else, expressing yourself, releasing these thoughts, would be a positive form of therapy for you.
It is, but I believe it has limitations. Again, I can monitor what I'm saying to you. If I am getting a chance to get at the physical energy of the raw emotions, then what happens is that's where the neural connections can change. There's been research that shows that when the energy can actually brought back up, and then there is something that gets, so to speak, in the middle or interrupts it,
right,
that's where new neural connections can be made. So the other main tool that I suggest to people is through visualizations. When you visualize something, it serves the same purpose as if it's actually happening. You can create it in your mind, except that you can decide what you're visualizing. And so when you visualize the old hurt, but then you change the visualization and make a new ending the way you would have liked it to end, you're actually rewiring your brain.
Out with the old and in with the new.
Yeah.
Well,
I was working with a client before, we got on the air.
Right.
And she kept telling me that she must divorce her husband because her body keeps telling her it's not going to work. And it really is a very reactive decision she's making. So I was working with her body, and we kept floating it back. And it really goes back to something that happened to her in childhood. What I said to her is that I really felt she was making a preemptive decision because it's really a response to an unhealed memory of something where her father let her down and she was afraid to re-feel that experience again. She got it, but she's so afraid that she's still going to decide to end her marriage, which is, shame. And I can't tell somebody what they must do.
But once again, we're talking about the disposable society we live in.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's just...
They're only married 1 year.
Oh, was this her second marriage?
No.
No, Wow. Yeah, it's easier to get rid of them instead of trying to work it out.
Yeah. And I even suggested to her, I said, why don't I suggest to your husband, if I suggest it, maybe he'll go along with it, that you separate for a while, let me work with you privately, heal this, and then you can see how you feel about the marriage. But she was so fear-driven that she refused. And as I said, I can't force somebody to do something when they don't want to do it. But it was very clear to me that she's making this decision really based on an old fear from her childhood, not because of what was going on with the husband, because he's actually making changes.
Karen, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation.
Okay.
Dr. Karen Sherman is our special guest. 2 websites, www.choicerelationships.com and www.drkarensherman.com. And Dr. Sherman is the author of Mindfulness and the Art of Choice. Transform your life. Once again, www.choicerelationships.com and drkarensherman.com. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
My arms around you. How long I have waited just to love you. Now that I've found you.
It hurts to be in love when the only one you love turns out to be someone who's not in love with you. It hurts to love her so when deep down inside you know she will never want you no matter what you do. And so you cry a little bit to be in love. Oh, cry a little bit to be in love. Day and night, night and day. It hurts to be in love this way. How long can I exist? What eclipse I've never kissed.
Karen, you mentioned that our body is a barometer, and I was wondering if you could explain that to me.
Well, as I started to mention before, anytime there is an emotion that we experience, there's also going to be a physical sensation. So we can use those physical sensations as the window, so to speak, to help us start to see, hey, what's going on. But, unfortunately, because we get so caught up as we started the show with stress, we don't pay attention to our bodies. And we don't even know what our bodies feel like in a relaxed state. So it would behoove people to feel relaxed, maybe through meditation or yoga or, some other practice, and then realize if they're feeling tight or tense, say, hey, what's that about? And then that would be able to bring them to, gee, I'm feeling anxious or
Yes.
I'm feeling angry or whatever, and then go from there.
You mentioned garbage thoughts. What are they?
Yeah. Well, when we're kids, our parents very often say things inadvertently many times. I'm not here to parent bash, but they give us messages that we end up taking in very seriously. A lot of parents could do, throwaway lines, almost like, you're being such a spoiled brat. But we take it in very seriously. And then what happens is that those thoughts are roaming around in our brain. Somebody did a study, and I don't know how they did this, but they found out that we are, without realizing it, thinking something like 60,000 thoughts a day that we're not even aware of. Most of them are negative. They're self-critical, they're self-blaming, and those are affecting our body, our well-being. and our psyche. But if you stop yourself, especially if you feel that your body is tight or tense, and say, what am I thinking now? You can actually start to be aware of those thoughts. Once you're aware of them, there are ways that you can actually stop them. Not easily, it's a practice, but there are ways that you can stop those negative thoughts. And it would make sense to try to stop them because they're not serving you in any way.
Karen, where can our listeners go to buy your book?
Any of the online bookstores or at either of my sites.
And give our listeners your websites one more time, please.
choicerelationships.com or Dr. Karen Sherman, DrKarenSherman.
Karen, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Continued success, and I look forward to speaking to you the next time you're with me here in the X Zone. But until then, don't text me.
Absolutely not, Rob. Thanks so much for having me with you.
Take care, Karen. Once again, X Zone Nation, Dr. Karen Sherman has been my guest this hour. choicerelationships.com and drkarensherman.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. I'll be back at 6.5 minutes past the hour. Don't go away.